Good morning, friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, and listeners, and especially anybody who's listening afresh. As always, we try and bring some very, very dynamic characters and business leaders onto the show, and today's no difference. We have Don Dwyer, co-managing partner of Guardian Jet. So, Don, welcome. It's great to have you on board.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real thrill.
And
it's flattering. I appreciate it.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. And you've got a certain Hollywood actor character about you. You look as if you should have just stepped off a set or a film.
I'm not sure what to say, but I think it's more my voice. I get a lot of, I have a great voice for the radio.
A great narrator's voice, but you've got a good face as well, my friend. Nice to see you smiling. Now, Don, if you can just give us a little bit of background, because what we're trying to do is, we're trying to make all parts of the aviation industry, show how they're intertwined and support each other, and why it's important that every single corner of aviation is maintained as we get through this damn crisis. So if you can just give us a little bit of background as to what Guardian Jets do and your role within the organisation.
Well, Guardian Jet is a consultancy and a brokerage. So we buy and sell airplanes on behalf of the most sophisticated customers in the world. A very large percentage of the Fortune 100, as well as high net worth people that you've heard of and haven't heard of, really across the size spectrum of business aircraft. It's hard to talk about Guardian Jet by myself. It's my brother and I. Mike Dwyer, we've been at this aviation together. Now we're in our fourth decade of transacting aircraft, and Guardian Jet is it's our life's work now. It's gone well. We're very pleased with the path, the trajectory the company's been on. COVID's been tough for everybody, but I characterize it as live to fight another day, and we're successfully doing that with literally almost all of our people that we started with. So very happy about that.
Good. We'll get back to the sibling, should we say partnership later. And I've got many brothers as well. One called Michael, the same as you. So I'm looking forward to that. But one of the things that we want to touch base on, Don, is the fact that unfortunately some people see private aviation as a huge luxury and overnight success and sports stars and film stars and pop stars, and they also they seem to look down on it. And what I'm trying to do now is, with this epidemic and this pandemic, there's so many people who are going to be displaced from their careers and their work, and it's going to have such an impact on others that I'm very conscious of trying not to have people sort of blame or look with green eyes or at other parties. And I think everybody should be celebrating success. So anybody who's able to maintain the private jet side of the business as a company or as an individual is because they're successful. If they're successful, they need, and they're supporting all the other services that work around wherever an aircraft, whether it's private or commercial, lands. So I think it's hugely, hugely important to keep wanting people to be successful. Now, one of the key areas that I've picked up in my research or interface is how many days you can actually save by utilizing private aviation as an top executive, from anything from 35 up to 60 or 70 days a year, which has a huge impact on an organization from those individuals' perspectives.
Well, to address the first part of it, we can't get around that. People will sometimes view business aviation or private aviation is the ultimate luxury, and it is. I mean, it's just a great way to travel. But that's not why the industry is successful. The industry is successful because we provide a service, a tool to do business better. No company would fly these airplanes unless they help them do their business faster, better, in more areas. So we're very focused on the side of the business that makes you more productive.
Yeah.
Listen, I love flying airplanes and I love being in the airplane, and it's a fabulous thing to use. But but it's also how we've grown our business.
No, exactly, and it's that productivity and efficiency and confidentiality that that lots of business users that's what they look for.
Now health and safety.
Exactly. Another point I was going to come to is if you were traveling normally, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand there's anything from 600 to 700 touch points. And if you're on private aviation, it's around 30 to 40, 30 to 50.
Well, and I think that's the thing that's driving who's buying aircraft right now. If you look at some of the behaviors going on, we have a consulting business here. We say consulting first, and I had a question from a customer that a large corporation that said, could you go out to all the other large corporations? And we queried 56 big sophisticated flight departments, and their question was, are you going to open up the personal use policy? So will you let executives use the airplane personally so that they can stay off the airlines? And it was very early in the pandemic that we asked this question. The interesting thing was, though, people said, we really hadn't thought about that. What we are sure of is that aviation is going to go deeper into our company. So if there were 3 or 4 bands of leadership that could access the company airplane, it was going deeper. The other thing we noticed in that survey when we talked to people, and these are just byproducts we didn't expect, was that that the use of the airplane had changed a little bit. That most people use their airplanes to grow their business, and we're no different. My brother and I use airplanes to go out and see customers and get them to be our customers. But what we found in the industry was they were using the airplanes operationally. So they were the critical operations in their business. They were supporting with business aircraft versus just getting business. And that was in an effort to keep everybody safe. So I've said I have never applauded corporate America like I have in the last 90, 120 days because of how they behaved towards their people. They're doing everything they can to keep their people safe and healthy, and it's great to see. And the byproduct is I think aviation will get stronger. Business aviation will get stronger from it. We've got to have a good economy to keep doing that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And this move from crisis to care and showing the good that comes from it. So you've got a huge cross section of customers. And one of the things just to cover, how much have you seen those customers supporting humanitarian and PPE and, illnesses, etc.? Because that's something that people don't hear about. And the media being the media, they tend to always promote bad stories or negative issues rather than the good.
Chris, I'm so glad you asked that because, we've seen, I had a really interesting discussion early on with the gentleman, the vice president of aviation at Pfizer, and they had elected to, they want to fly their airplanes for exercising them. They don't want their people traveling right now, but they do have to go out and exercise the airplane. So they elected to do it by flying cancer patients, the Cancer Angel Network, by really supporting that. And there's a ton of different. We have customers in the high net worth world that are using their airplane to fly the doctors around or the scientists around finding the vaccine. So we've just seen so many examples of it. But you're right; it doesn't make the evening news, but it is, I think, kind of the best. I've said I think this is the best we've ever been as an industry.
Yeah, and ethically, morally, I think there's so many good things that people are doing. And the ironic thing is that and you probably know this better than me, but lots of people who are very successful, they keep what they do for others quiet. They don't need to show what they're doing, and unfortunately, those stories then always stay under the clouds. Nobody gets to see all the great things that are being done, and it's such a shame because I think now more than ever, people are starting to appreciate people who've put themselves on the front line. So whether it's frontline workers, whether it's health workers, cleaners, all the people that do things that everybody expected and thought was normal practice without having to think about it. Well, now you've got to think about it and you've got to appreciate those people.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. The kid that works in a supermarket, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
whoever thought that'd be a heroic job? But anyway, so we are seeing the industry respond really well. We're seeing, you know, we're just seeing the best of, of we're seeing sort of what I'd expect, but I don't want to say surprised, but I'm happy to
Yeah.
to see it. So
Yeah. Okay, good. Now, it's been recognized that, you're one of the top consulting firms and brokerages combined, and also part of your corporate clarity of language also states that you're not just a broker, and that, you're your client's strategic business partner regarding all things aviation. So that covers a real broad spectrum. Now, as far
yeah,
as as
I'm
far
sorry.
as your consulting earning you the right to execute trades, what areas do you cover in that consultancy, or under the consultancy umbrella?
So our consulting business is driven around the capital involved in buying and selling airplanes. So we're not operational consultants. I mean, we've helped set up flight departments before, and we've done some other things. But if you're looking for an SBO audit or a how do I fly safely, we're not the guys. We are the people that will help you understand that you have a tremendous amount of capital invested, whether you're flying, you charter 5 times a year, whether you own a fractional, whether you own your own airplane, or we were lucky to work for the largest companies in the world that have big fleets of airplanes. How long you should own the airplane? Do you have the right airplanes? Are they in the right locations? All these things, am I buying the right vintage airplane? So all these things have a dramatic impact on your total aviation spend. I like to say that, I heard a consultant when I was young say that 30% of the budget was capital. Well, today that's flipped. The capital required to buy these airplanes can dwarf the operating costs. So we focus on helping people make smart decisions about the capital, and that applies to wherever you're entering the stream of aviation.
Okay, yeah. So yours is with the actual aircraft finance, best options, asset management. You also do
Sure.
fleet planning, and then ultimately sales and purchases.
So fleet planning is probably the biggest calling card that got us into the Fortune stack of companies, where you've got 5 airplanes and what's the right mix, and that's especially, you feel very acutely that you better have the right mix right now because there's a lot of scrutiny, and that you're spending the dollars as efficiently as possible. So that led to that. But I will tell you, for every fleet plan we do for the largest companies in the world, we probably do 10 for somebody who says, I'm flying 100 hours a year. I'm chartering. Should I own an airplane? If I own it, should I charter it? So that our full-time consulting business is incredibly busy. It's not an inexpensive way to get transactions, but it's worked very well for us.
I can imagine. Now, we also spoke briefly about the difference between a yacht and an aircraft, and one being, pure escapism and luxury, and the other one being the lifeblood of how you do your business. Now, I've got quite a few friends who've still have or had their own vessel, and then the old adage about the best day is the day you buy it, and equally probably maybe even the better day is the day you sell it again. But with aircraft, it's very different. Are you seeing a lot more people now evaluate and look at whether or not to combine owning their aircraft and then giving it to somebody to look after it, so that they can use it when they need, but also make best advantage of it? Are you seeing a lot more interest in that now?
It's driving the business. It is absolutely driving the business. Either new owners or people, whether it's, there's a statistic that something like 10% of the people that can afford private aviation use private aviation. So whether it's first-time people coming into the charter business or buying a fractional airplane company is very healthy right now. As they grow, people don't want to get on the airlines. I happen to believe that a healthy airline industry is important to all of us, But right now, people don't want to get on the airplanes, and they're looking at and they're executing decisions on how to travel privately. So we've seen a big jump in first-time ownership, people that have, and typically they're going to management companies when they do that. We've seen a big jump in, charter requests. We've seen a big jump in people getting into the fractional business, and first-time buyers, which are, and they're coming in at every level. When this first started, I told our sales force, start looking at $8 million and under, those kind of customers, because I think that's where the entry level into the market is. But we bought a Gulfstream G650. We bought Falcon 7X. We just bought a Global 5000 for all first-time buyers. So very, very interesting where they're entering the when people enter our industry nowadays, when I was young, a company would get a small airplane and maybe a King Air and then a light jet and move up. Well, these people aren't doing that anymore. Now they're getting introduced by very sophisticated operators, whether it's FlexJet, NetJets, VistaJet, Wheels Up, the very sophisticated operators that are providing a really, really high level of service. So when they want to own their own airplane, it's a very different question than it was 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, no, it's incredible how it's developed, and also the age. I was talking to somebody, and they were saying that when they were first getting into it, the age of an individual or somebody, a company executive who owned an aircraft, was up at the higher levels, and now it's anything from 35 upwards, and it's a big change.
Yeah, it's I got to stay relevant, at my age. That's not as easy anymore.
No, I'm sure you could still do some fancy footwork. I'm sure.
No, we're still. It's still the best part. The thing I love about the consulting business, Chris, is that it's the most interesting part of the business to me. What should people be doing? How do you protect the value of the investment? How do you? To me, and believe me, I've been peddling airplanes my whole life, and there's nothing I enjoy more. But the more interesting piece of the business is how do we really serve the customer and make it about them being a lifetime customer and not just a deal.
Exactly.
We have a couple mantras here, and one is always act in the customer's best interest, regardless of how it affects us, and that's led to a pretty strong business. But there's times when you wish you could tell somebody go ahead and do a deal because it rings the cash register. But we're careful about that.
But it must be great. It must be great as well for you to see all the different types of characters and businesses and the reasons why people are actually doing it. It gives you a great picture of what's going on at that higher level of finance and economy and business.
It's fascinating because, the business, we really grew the business on the backs of the corporate flight departments. And that's where we made our first foray into being different or special.
Yeah.
And about 5 years ago, we recognized the need that we didn't want to be solely a corporate flight department. And we've always done work for high net worth individuals, but I wanted to balance it out a little bit. We literally hired a sales force to go after the high net worth people. And to tell you it's fascinating is just crazy. We the list of customers and what they do and how they did it, and you hear the stories of how they built the business. The most interesting story I think I've ever heard is how Zillow got started, and and you're talking to the guys that did it, and it's a real luxury to be able to do that for your work.
It must be.
It's kind of fun, yeah.
Yeah, Don, it was great that you mentioned earlier on about the fact that, traveling on traditional carriers is still a positive thing and still safe. And I endorse that. I think it's one of the best ways to travel, but it's everything that goes around it now is influencing people's confidence. And that consumer confidence is so important. And I think what private aviation have done, especially with the reduced touch points, they've managed to get consistency in what they do. So people have got a better appreciation, and obviously the less touch points is such a big decision maker.
Yeah, I think the the less touch points, you're talking about control of the experience. And we have a much higher degree of control of the experience. And, if you look at when you charter an airplane, when you get into a fractional, there's this descending or ascending level of control, and owning your own airplane is a great way to control as many variables as you can. And I think people are comfortable with that. We're doing the same thing in our business. We're even though I'm comfortable, I would get on the airlines today. I'm trying to minimize it. We're certainly trying to minimize it for our employees. We're using the company aircraft to deploy people versus putting them on the airlines. And it's just, I mean, I know there's an argument for how safe the airlines are, but we want to go the extra mile right now. And that's how I think most people are feeling.
Yeah. And I think if you look at we've also looked at some of the FBOs and what they do there, and the quality and the luxury, and that's part of the entire process. So what I'm also seeing is that people are looking at it from front end to back end, and all of the parties in between having a similar approach and a similar concept, and that's what they like. And I think some of the more exclusive resorts and vacation areas are going to come into their own as well as part of that entire process, and especially when people, or if they have to go into certain lockdowns or escapism when the second wave hits.
Well, I think we all kind of, whether it's a brokerage or an FBO or a maintenance facility, none of us want to throw the towel in. We want to keep the business going as uninterrupted as possible. And to that end, you gotta be smart about your people and getting people to work and letting people work at home. And it was a big leap for me. I'm 62 years old, so the idea of everybody working at home, I don't know, that was hard for me to. And then I saw how hard they were working, and I was great with it. Personally, I get distracted too easy. I love to be in the office or on the road, or but I just saw how people behave. And was surprised at how hard people work. We have a very collaborative business. We have a team approach to everything. So being in Connecticut, where it's a lot safer than most places, it's a luxury to have almost everybody back in the office. And the exceptions because of specific reasons, I'm completely comfortable with if people can't be in the office, but it's nice too. It's just how we built this business. We like to work together. So.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I can see. Now, with your 5-pillar philosophy, which is valuation, fleet planning, acquisition, brokerage, and accessibility, the one that interests me is the accessibility or the vault, as you call it. Can you just cover a little bit on that?
Sure. So the vault came about. First of all, we're and it's, I will tell you, the creative genius here is my brother. He's the one that gets all the credit for the great products and services that set us apart. But the vault came about because we were archiving a lot of information. We were archiving a lot of values, and we wanted our customer base to have access to the information that we had. And we noticed that the generation of, when we hired a sales force and we were going after this high net worth, this generation of leadership out there was very comfortable at night looking online and trying to get information. And we felt like we had better information than was available to them. We feel like we have the best information, the best data available to anyone, and we wanted to make it available to them. We also felt like it was a part of, we have to be a global business in this, in our world. We got to transcend borders. And we felt like we have better products and services than what they offer in a lot of locations. So as we go around the world, it's very easy for our international customers to access the same information for the people that live next door to us. So you don't necessarily have to have a salesman in your backyard but the fact that you can get this information, the fact that you can understand these markets, we have learned so much about the markets from our customers because they'll call and say, "Hey, I noticed this." because they're in there looking at it. I mean, there's some great examples of people you wouldn't expect in the middle of the night in our vault, really helping us get better. I look at the markets every day, so I'm watching things in real time, and but now so are our customers. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's a good thing as well, because if people understand similar strains or pipelines, then you've got easier decision making and easier like reference to credibility and who's actually doing who any good.
If you think about it, Chris, the tenets we built the business on were put some process into this industry and also some transparency. We felt like transparency was lacking in the brokerage industry. It was 20 years ago, 18 years ago when we started Guardian Jet, when Mike started it. It was a little bit of the Wild West, and we felt like the idea that we introduce process so we have fewer quality escapes would be beneficial, and then also the transparency so that everybody knows everything in the deal. Our customers know exactly what's happening, and that's served us well. It's not for everybody. And by the way, we're not the only great brokerage in the world. We think we're the best one, but there's some other really, really great ones out there. We love to work with the better ones. But yeah, no, we believe in the idea of process, and then the notion that we're not hiding anything. I remember being back at Hawker Beechcraft back in the day, and I wanted to put cameras on the line so that people could see their airplane being built. And the manufacturing people were, but then they're going to see our mistakes. And I said, well, everybody makes mistakes. People all know that there's a mistake's going to happen every now and then. But first of all, it'll probably make us better. But I just love the notion of this is exactly who we are, and letting people in. And so far it's serving us well. Now, the pandemic is playing into the hands of the accessibility. I mean, believe me, I want it over tomorrow. But the notion that you can still get a lot of data it's been very powerful for us.
Yeah, no, it's good. And you just quickly mentioned there, because obviously you were VP Global Sales at Hawker Beechcraft, yeah?
Yeah, it was a fun career.
I was going to say, so obviously you took a lot of that side of things as well with you, but also coming into the Irish Twins business unit, and be interesting to see if people ask what the Irish Twins are. We can tell them if they come up with a question. But coming into that now, and you were saying that Michael is the process and the creative one. It's a nice pairing when it works at such a high level basis. And if you've got those certain values, what you just said a minute ago is you're a great broker, but you're not necessarily the best, but you're up there with the best. It's so important for good.
Oh no, we think we're the best. Let me clear that up. We think we're the best broker in the world.
I was giving you that opportunity to step in there, no problem. But what I'm saying is, in any sport or any business, if you're up there with people that are of the same caliber and the same pressure, it keeps moving you on. And I would imagine the most important thing to do is to be growing the cake, rather than like in some other parts of the business, people are fighting over the slices before even looking at the size of the cake. And it's important that you keep driving each other.
Well, it's interesting because we have a very unregulated business, and it is a cottage industry. So I don't think you have to be big to be great at brokering airplanes, but I think it helps. I think having, we have a lot more resources for our customers than if we hadn't made the commitment to the infrastructure and to the overhead actually that we have. So we can provide a lot of service and a lot of technical capability to our customers that we couldn't when we were smaller. We just couldn't. I will say, I think, when we talk about the Irish Twins, Mike and I are 12 months apart. We owned a business together before we got into aviation. I love to say that the thing I'm most proud of in my business career, and it's been a pretty good business career, but the thing that I'm most proud of is that when we had a going business and we learned to fly with our first bonus, we took our first bonus and learned, and our wives let us, which is amazing. I married way over my head. We went and learned to fly, and I said, I don't want to be in the graphite machine business anymore. And that we had the nerve and to go do that, to actually sell the company and not know how we were going to make a living in aviation. And so that to me was, I think that's the thing I'm most proud of in the career. But this notion that we do it together, if I tell you, we have this ethos, Chris, that with our employees and our customers, if I care more about your success than my own, and you do the same for me, 1 + 1 = 3 million. And I think here at our company, that just starts with Mike and I. We'll both tell you the other guy is by far the more important one to the business. And that's it's just how we behave for a long time. And it's worked well for us. We have a really good friend, another really good broker, that said to me once, he said, you're lucky. You have your brother. You have somebody to share this experience with, because, running a business can be lonely. It can be difficult. Yeah. But I always appreciated his comment that the good and the bad you get to share. So it's been great.
I'm going to pitch that to my brothers, especially my brother Michael as well. So yeah. I'm going to see what he comes up with after that one. But no, I can imagine, and it is because sometimes in business you need somebody to be so honest with you, and you need to be honest with them as well. And if you've got that, and you've got that longevity of putting up with it, then it's a great thing.
Yeah, neither of us suffer candor. we both have plenty. We're candid. So, anyways,
I've got a friend who shares the same name with you. Who's also got Irish background. His name is Bernard Dwyer, and my goodness me, he's one of life's huge characters. And his
great.
Great. Yeah, they're great. I must get him to check out his family tree, see if there's any relation.
Yeah, somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure. Now, the one thing I would like to touch on, and especially with competition and making people look at what's the positives in the business, you've got to mention that you say revolutionary sales process. So obviously you do something special, or you feel that the ingredients that you give to your sales and your commercial team are exceptional. Are you able to share a few of what it is that makes them so good?
Absolutely, Chris. So first of all, we got to talk about sales and what that means. Our sales force, and I will tell you, the sales force has been the key to the growth of the company. And it was hard for us to hire a sales force. So the people that have caught on here have they're very focused on deals. They're good at doing deals, but they're really focused on their customers. So if we can't hire somebody that just wants to get the next deal done, that doesn't work here. We've got to behave in the best. Sorry, there's a little siren going on.
That's all right.
We've got a hurricane coming today on the East Coast, and I think everybody's getting ready. So our sales force has been the key to our growth. We've got some great people out in the field, but their job is to acquire customers. So they go out and they meet with customers and they pitch the products and services that we have, versus we just want to buy and sell our customers' airplanes. We talk about the 5 pillars: the valuation service, the understanding of pricing, the buying and selling of airplanes. Certainly, it's where we make all our money. But the consulting business, and they're out pitching the company and what we do. When we get a customer, though, and we're selling an airplane for that customer, we do that internally. We have an internal sales team. And this is again, Mike came up with. He saw a Halle Berry movie. Who didn't like Halle Berry? She was a 911 operator, and as the whatever emergency she was facing escalated, she got more and more resources devoted to her to solve the problem. And we felt like that was a better way to sell airplanes. So now when you call our company and are buying an airplane or inquiring about one of our airplanes, it's actually 2 people answer the call. You're only talking to one, but 2 people are on the call. One is driving information to the person talking. So 3 big computer screens filled with information. And we've turned a a 5 to 8 minute call on, because I know that because we measured it, on talking about the spec and maybe talking about the market, into a 20 to 30 minute call on what that customer really needed and what's the best way to sell the airplane that we have. So we have an internal sales team. We think it works faster. We think we sell airplanes faster. We measure that. We think we sell them for more money. And we think the internal sales team has been a great thing for us. It's not for everybody. Because again, now that's a commitment to more overhead, to more people to accomplish the same goal. But we think it serves our customers really, really well, and it lets our guys in the field do what they're great at, and that's really understanding what their customers need and being able to address that. So it's worked for us.
No, that's great. Can I, and please, if this is a stupid question, feel free in your Hollywood narration voice to just tell me I'm an idiot. But do you have different salespeople who buy an aircraft for your customers and who sell your customers' aircraft?
That's a really great question. And the answer is yes and no. No, in the fact everything's done on what we call our trading floor. So there's 11 people that sit on the trading floor and they're doing everything from research on pricing, research on airplanes. There's 2 technical people. There's 3 full-time research people. There's our internal sales force. So there's the person that runs our kind of runs the research department also is absolutely integral in buying airplanes. Matter of fact, today I'm going to spend the day with him looking at the 6,000 market and the G5 market, 2 very different markets. But he and I are going to sit down and he and I are going to sit down and go through each airplane on the market, because we've got so much data on these airplanes. So it's a team, but they all have different responsibilities. So Kyle Canna, the guy that I'll work with today, the head of our research, he'll help me buy these airplanes. He will be, when he talks to our customers, I'm pretty good at the airplane. I'm okay at, talking about airplanes. He's way better in terms of specifics about the actual airplanes on the market. He's way better than me because he spends all day doing that. And he's got a team of people feeding him information. So we use that. Then our internal salespeople, they are charged with selling our listings, what we call our inventory, although we don't own it. But selling off our inventory. And, we usually have somewhere between 40 and 60 airplanes for sale. So it's, they're busy.
Okay, that's good. Now, the reason I'm saying it, I've actually got a friend who wants to buy an aircraft. And we were just having a discussion over a social evening as to why, and he's a good businessman and he's got good reasons to it. And then I was thinking to myself, you look at all the aircraft that's available, and then which ones hold their price better if you're not sure whether or not you're going to keep it for a long period of time, which ones are more attractive if you want to co-share it, all the different elements. So, a little bit like when you're buying a car, some very few cars hold their price and even some actually pick up a bit. But in most cases, that you're going to lose a little bit, but some far more than others. And I would imagine that same dilemma is there for people coming into the market. So they would need the expertise that you guys offer with the knowledge that it's very open and transparent.
Well, it is, because every airplane loses value at a different rate. G550 loses value. A 10-year-old G550 loses value differently than a 4-year-old one, which loses value differently than a Global 6000. So we've got people that work on that. So that outside of that trading floor, that's where the consulting team is so important. The 3 full-time, MBAs, really, really smart people working on the consulting that help our customers understand, first of all, what does it really cost to own an airplane? What are you really going to spend?
That's it.
What does tax implications really mean to you? What is the what does the residual value difference in one airplane over another really mean over a 7-year ownership term? So our consulting department is hugely important for our customers in helping them decide which airplane. They are constantly comparing the real ownership costs of one size airplane versus another. The consulting department also comes in when I talk about the trading floor, though. When the internal sales team, they're talking to, say we're selling a Challenger 300 and someone's coming out of a Hawker 800. It's awfully nice for our salespeople to be able to, look down the hall and say, hey, I need a cash flow that compares to, this person's operating an 800. They'd like to know what the real cost of ownership is, how much more it's going to cost them to operate a little bigger airplane. And sometimes it's surprising how little difference there will be. So, that's a real luxury that we have here. And so when I say it's a team approach, we really live that every day.
Yeah, but that's the way it should be. But it also comes back to something we mentioned at the beginning. Data-driven decision making is normally a lot more successful than just and thinking I want.
Listen, my favorite customer can also be the guy that says, I want the blue one, because it's fast. I mean, we don't want to ignore that either, but we do think being smart about the capital you have invested is just good for you. It's because the dollars involved in this, it's expensive to fly privately. There's there's been a lot of businesses have started and stopped trying to figure out how to be the one that provides inexpensive private aircraft flying. And we know it's expensive, but we just want to be as smart as we can about it.
No, exactly. Now, Don, we're coming near the end, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Last question. What would you say are the major opportunities ahead now for private aviation, looking at the next 3 to 4 years? Because it's going to be at least that period, before there's growth back to the way it was, and the mentality of how it was. And who knows, maybe it's better that we don't return to that. But, with people being more focused on margins and benefits, etc. So 3 to 4 years, what would you say are the major opportunities now for private aviation?
So I'll talk about it in a couple different ways, Chris. One is in the macro sense. I think that there's an opportunity because more people are going to be introduced to private aviation right now than ever in our, this is when people are really looking at, can I afford private? How do I do it? What's the easy way to do it? How do we make it painless to enter our industry? And I think that'll be a big change. And I think that's coming. I think the real thing that we'll notice in the next 3 to 4 years is how well the industry behaves. We're noticing now that, we're trying to do deals. That it's always important what airplane you're buying, the pedigree of the airplane, the company you're buying it from. We buy a lot of new airplanes also. So it's important who you're buying, what airplane you're buying. It's also important who you're buying it from. If the broker on the other side of the deal understands how to get a deal done, it's better for my customer. If the lawyer understands industry accepted standards and isn't trying to win every dotted I and crossed T. And so we're feeling this kind of this coalescing of the better organizations working well together. And I can name the better brokerages. You probably know them, but we're doing deals now. We're trying to have on the other side of the deal another good company because it's in the best interest of my customers. So I think we're seeing that will. I think there'll be some consolidation. I think it'll just be. I think the better organizations, hard times will yield the better organizations becoming stronger, and it won't be easy. And our company will look different. We're big fans of reinvention. Our company will look different coming out of the crisis that did going in. We'll probably have different products and services. We've certainly learned to do business differently. So I think that'll be the big change that we're kind of winnowing out some of the players that probably should be winnowed.
No, and again, it's not a bad thing. And the fact that collaboration and having more enablers than blockers in business is one of the criteria that, as long as it's at the customer's best interests, it's the best way forward.
You know, we're a part of a couple of organizations that I think have really proven their mettle. MBAA, I think, is the National Business Aircraft Association, has just been incredible through this crisis in disseminating information. I think IATA, the International Aircraft Dealer Association, great organization. They're promoting the idea that, you know, the better dealers work together. There's just there's a lot of great things going on right now, Chris.
Yeah, and you sit on the advisory council of the NBAA, yeah?
I do. So yeah, it's and it's something I'm proud of, and I've learned more about the organization since developing closer ties. You know, at the end of the day, too, it's the people that you're on it with. You know, I'll say one last thing about what's so attractive about whether it's the MBA, the advisory council, whether it's just aviation people in general. Almost everybody got to this industry because they wanted to be, and I think that sets us apart. I think that makes people a little bit more collaborative, or at least we've got some common threads, some DNA running through us that I think is powerful.
No, that's good. That's good. Well, my friend, it's been lovely to meet you, and thank you so much for coming on. You're a very easy man to talk to and listen to. I love the voice. You remind me a little bit of John Wayne or Robert Mitchum, or a little combination of the two. Not a bad
I'll
thing.
take that. Thank you.
Hey, not a bad double act. So
no, that's pretty good.
So I'm pretty sure Michael is a little bit like Dean Martin. So it'll be a great team.
Well, it's a lot of fun. But hey, thank you very much. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk.
Likewise, and good luck with everything, and great success ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.